dressed for the afternoon. Those were my morning clothes. Now this is time to party. No, I just got back from mowing the yard. What do you think? Part 2 of Conversations. Welcome back here to the soundstage at Graceland, and also welcome online to all the people that are there at home watching us virtually, and perhaps watching us a few days from now, up to the 7 days. This will be available to view. So those of you in the future, nice to see you. I appreciate you watching, and it went great. Tonight we have the one thing that I love about Elvis Week is it really grew around candlelight, which was started by you, the fans. It was very organic, the way that it started. And Graceland has made every effort over the years, through good times and bad times and rainstorms and COVID, to continue to have the candlelight happen. And we're going to be experiencing that tonight. I have a very special friend who said we're going to pretend that the earlier thing didn't happen. Okay? Can you guess who sent a video message to us? You're exactly right. It's funny. None of us know him personally, but we all call him Stamos. Isn't that weird? And it's strange for me to watch the video because it's like looking in a mirror. A really cheap, bad, cracked mirror. So let's hear from our friend who sent us a message, John Stamos.
Hey, Elvis fans, it's your friend John Stamos, and I hope you're having a great time at Elvis Week. I'm sorry I couldn't be there. I'm going to try to get there next year for sure, because it is quite a celebration. And of course, with the movie out now, if you haven't seen the movie, you've got to see the movie. I promise you, it's the most beautiful movie I've seen in the longest time, and the best Elvis movie, hands down. I got to get Austin Butler is so incredible. I'm going to ask him to play Uncle Jesse at some point. Elvis, yeah. All right, God bless you all, TCB, and have fun at Elvis Week.
Yeah.
Hey, Elvis fans, it's your friend John. Hey, Elvis fans, it's your friend John.
First rule of showbiz, be very, very nice to your crew. And I'm very nice to you. Thank you for that. You wanted to hear from Uncle Jesse? You're going to hear from Uncle Jesse. All right. All of these activities happening here in an Elvis Week that consists of 9 days, because it's Elvis Presley and that's how we do things at Graceland. Elvis Week 45, and here to tell us about what's been happening this week and maybe perhaps a look into the future. It is Joel Weinshanker, the managing partner of Graceland Holdings, LLC, and one of the big reasons that we are sitting in a facility like this, with a hotel like that, with a facility all around us like this complex. Joel Weinshanker, welcome. See you up there. I would say welcome to Elvis Week, but you've been here for days and weeks and months, and it's just great to have you to talk to everybody. We're excited. It's been a great week so far.
Well, I know the reason everybody wants me up here is that I tend to tell things that shouldn't be told. And all of you out there know that I have a history of doing that. And that, the funny thing was, it's gotten so bad. And by the way, you talk about people seeing this in the future. I don't think there's a chance that this next part will actually go into the future, because I'm sure it's going to get clipped after I said it.
Okay.
And if you notice, I'm actually timing myself as to how long I've been here, because what the good old folks at Graceland have done is they have a betting pool to how many seconds it's going to take me to start saying things that I shouldn't say. But it wasn't very well thought out, because they allow me to go into the pool. So I'm going to wait about 5 more seconds. And then I'm going to tell you that we can't speak about things like Elvis on tour, live on tour next year. That's something we cannot speak about. We can't speak upon the new exhibitions that are going to be coming up in Europe next year. I don't want you to ask me about the 4-hour version of the Elvis movie. Okay? Now, by the way, there's a rule about that, of something that doesn't exist, because we're not talking about it. If and when that were to happen, which I have no idea if it's going to, the requirement's going to be you've had to see the movie in the theater at least twice. at least twice. And the second time brought someone who's not an Elvis fan yet. Okay? So not to say that any of this is going to happen, but these are the things we really can't talk about.
Right. We're not talking about it at all. In fact, our interview has just started. Joel Weinshanker, welcome to Elvis Week.
$280 richer.
Yes. Snip that right out. I tend to look at it as challenges, not but welcome. And I made out a list here of some of the things that have happened over the last 9 or so years, and sometimes we forget to look back at where we were 9-10 years ago here at Graceland, and how far we've come.
I think, listen, it's everything in life. It's when great things happen, you tend to take them for granted until something bad happens. And for us, obviously, that bad was COVID. So it's delayed a couple of things that we're going to do, but it hasn't derailed. We're going to keep on doing the things. And again, everything that we do, from the hotel, from Elvis Presley's Memphis, the exhibition facilities, is really based upon what Elvis would want us to do. And it's not that we are arrogant to say, well, we know. It's really, we look into it, we look into the information, we go into the archives. We really do spend a lot of time saying, what would Elvis want us to do? And those are the things that we've done and that we will continue to do.
And like you said, one of those things, the hotel, you guys found paperwork where Elvis was thinking about building on his property a guest house.
And he even called it the guest house.
Exactly.
It was actually a guest house and a recording studio. And we found it, Angie found it, I want to say a year into the process. So it was pretty obvious that, he used to send people down the block to the Howard Johnsons. And the Howard Johnsons would fill up. And you'd literally have people sleeping in their cars after the party, because obviously there was no place in the mansion for them to go. So it was a natural, and it was really, what would a guest house look like for Elvis? He wouldn't have his photo all over the place. So if you notice in the hotel, and I don't know if you do or not, the only place you're going to see a photo of Elvis is in the gift shop. And that was really, thought about and calculated, because, he wouldn't have it all in he wouldn't invite people to say, look at me at night. Here's a photo of me, look at it. Even though people would want to. So everything that we do is with that thought on what would he have done in that situation.
And the hotel evokes the Elvis spirit in the architecture, in the furniture, in the furnishings, the sparkly wallpaper. I mean, it's all very Elvis without being overstated Elvis. It's just cool.
The iconography, it's the images, it's his, it's his outfits, it's all the things that he thought of and wanted to do. Were just part of it, and just a feeling. Like, I never wanted it to be a hard rock, gold records on the wall. It was never a thought.
Yeah, and it's a great headquarters for us during Elvis Week too.
Absolutely.
That hotel rocks all year, but it really rocks for this 9 days.
Absolutely.
Amazing stuff. Also, speaking of things that were looking at Elvis and what would he have done, Joe Gershio, and I was present during the conversation when Priscilla talked to Joe Gershio, Elvis's conductor, about an idea for doing a symphonic philharmonic album and albums that became very successful. And Maestro Gershio said Elvis loved orchestra. He wanted a philharmonic orchestra. They just couldn't travel. And so that, again, doing exactly what were Elvis's wishes.
This is really about time and place and ability. So a lot of things, all of these things were things that Elvis would have wanted, but weren't available to him for various reasons. Financially, technology. Elvis was a first adapter. He wasn't an early adapter. He wanted every piece of technology first, even if he had to bribe somebody to get it, which is what he did when he got the first Stutz, where he took Sinatra's Stutz and got it instead.
Yeah, one of my favorite stories. When Elvis wanted it, it just happened. Also, another thing that happened, and it just, looking back, it seems to be so quickly that it happened, but there were months and years of construction and things. I grew up knowing exactly what was across the street from Graceland and with those gift shops, that strip mall, basically strip mall of gift shops. And you guys decided, and knew Elvis deserved more than that, than an old converted group of strip mall stores, and that's why we're here now.
Listen, a lot of that was an ode to Vernon, because, we had, think about 500 gallons of water, and the only thing you can put it in was a little 12-ounce glass. We had the best archives in the history of history, and that's what this really comes down to. You can't think of a person living or past or the history of it. If you want to know what Elvis did for 3 days in 1964, Angie can tell you, because there's a roadmap and a history. He went to this shop and bought this. Because he never had cash. Neither did any of his people. They signed for it. They sent it to Vernon. Vernon was so paranoid about anyone ever thinking that he didn't pay for something, for obvious reasons. And then he would keep the bill. He would send the check, and he kept every check. So it's just really a roadmap of a history, and then it's every one of these first adapters, from the first projection television to the first cell phone that any non-military person owned. Just go down the list. We have it all because Vernon just never believed in throwing anything away. And when I got here, I was like, here are the archives. Here's what we can do to show you.
Yeah.
And it just didn't make sense. And there's so many things. Like, I'm so proud of the job that Angie and her team did with the 100 outfits.
Whoa!
When you think of fashion icons, and you think of Chanel and Dior and all of these massive fashion icons, it's really where the germ of the idea came from. It's just to be able to show you all, just in its enormity. And for my 2 cents, we're never going to take that down. But what you're going to see is another amazing, tremendous exhibition within there that we're going to keep up, and we're going to keep on building and building. We want you, listen, y'all are the most loyal fans that we have. You keep Elvis's memory alive, and I want to thank each and every one of you. But at the end of the day, we need to make it exciting for you. Someone came in, I saw somebody outdoors this morning, and then he had my email, so he sent me an email afterwards saying, we need to create more excitement outdoors, during, and I'm like, people would pass out. I mean, I don't know who's going to be out there. But we will try. He actually said something that I had thought about, which was trying to put a tent in the middle and actually air condition it, which we will try to do. But every year, our obligation to you is the same as Elvis was when he was alive. Bigger and better and more exciting.
And it seems like every year that we have something tremendous to talk about. A few years ago, we were on this stage talking about The Searcher, the HBO documentary, 2-part documentary from Tom Zindi that really told the Elvis story with archival footage and interviews and accuracy, and just involved everyone who watched it. And then just a few months ago, now we have a time to talk about something that I think it's, in 45 years, the biggest thing that has happened in the Elvis world, and that is that movie.
And it's been a few months for y'all, but I remember 5 years ago I actually flew Baz Luhrmann to Memphis, and we got in about 10:30 at night, and I spent the night with him behind the mansion. Just talking about the man, the myth, the legacy. Talking about what this movie should look like. Talking about who could actually play Elvis. And that was 5 years ago. So we've been working on this thing for that long, and I couldn't be more proud of the job that everyone did. That obviously not only Baz but his wife Catherine, just the brilliant job they did with set design. I was actually getting phone calls when some of the family actually saw the movie for the first time. They're like, "What rooms did Baz actually get to look in?" And the crazy thing is that yes, with the family's permission, he was given a little bit of access. But what he was able to translate just in audio, because Catherine, they're Australian. Catherine wasn't here. And Catherine, by the way, is his wife, 4-time Academy Award winner, set designer, costume designer, just did, an amazing job. But what he was able to articulate in audio and what it ended up looking at was just the most amazing thing, was just an amazing job of filmmaking. It's incredible.
It's so rich, and it's filled with imagery that upon repeated viewings, things become clearer, storylines become clearer, and artistic choices were made. The amount of accuracy and artistic license that he took is just a perfect balance. And it looks like you let them in the living room to shoot, but everything is shot in Australia.
And just so you know, because it is important on why, this was a massive movie that would have cost so much more and probably would have never gotten made, because I'm sure y'all have been up here And you've heard so many people talk about how Elvis wanted to be like James Dean. He wanted to be taken as a serious actor. And obviously, you know, there are reasons why he was never allowed to do it. It wasn't a lack of desire. It wasn't a lack of, you know, roles out there for him. It was really, you know, him not being able to or felt he wasn't able to. But, you know, we really felt how important it was. Like, Elvis always wanted to be in a serious movie. He always wanted to be directed by a great film director. And he was never able to do it in his life, so it was so important for us to be able to do this. But that movie, if it was shot in the United States, would have cost about $150 million. So this is probably things I shouldn't be telling anybody either. But because of the nature of Baz being Australian and the film credits that they get, they actually, the government of Australia chipped in about $65 million to be able to make this movie. So it was so important. So, you know, outside of Austin and Tom, all of the actors and actresses and everyone was Australian. Everyone they were doing, anything you were doing was really done in Australia. And if everyone remembers, you know, and I was about to go out a week later, the first famous person that we all know who got COVID was Tom Hanks. And I literally I was like 6 or 7 days later going out to Australia, starting it, and obviously did not go, and I don't know how long it would have taken me to come back. But, you know, it was just, a lot of things had to happen and keep on happening. Even Austin, you know, there were other people who were up for this movie. And maybe there was a rock star or two. And I got to tell you, I have to imagine if it wasn't Austin, it was maybe somebody else. Maybe this movie never would have gotten made, because Austin made that commitment. He stayed in Australia. He lived, he immersed himself in Elvis. And although I won't go as far as Lisa, where Lisa said she was going to eat her toe if he doesn't win an Academy Award, I like to think that he's at least going to be nominated. I can't tell you a little too much, but, you know, otherwise I'm with it.
You've gotten in enough trouble already.
Absolutely.
With predictions.
Absolutely.
We've all been saying, you know, I think hopefully, fingers crossed, toes crossed, that Elvis finally gets his Oscar.
And you know, absolutely embarrassing to get one. It really is. It's an amazing film. And if you look at it, it's still in the theater. It's still in, you know, Debbie Miller, who's our head of marketing. And by the way, you know, there are people who've been here forever. You know, what would Graceland be without Jack Soden? Yeah. You know, someone like, you know, Regina Campbell and Jimmy, her husband, they've been working their 80% of their lives, not even adult lives, like 80% of their lives they've been working at Graceland. Debbie has not been here for that long. You know, Debbie came to us from Hollywood. She was head of marketing at Fox. And I just want to show a real appreciation for Debbie, because although she's not leaving us, she's taking a step back. So she is going to spend a bit of time with her husband and travel the world. So she's still going to be with us, but like, just, you know, really, you know, she has done such a great and amazing job, as has so many people at Graceland. Yeah. But Debbie, I think tomorrow is her last day as a full-time head of marketing. She's done such a great job. And, you know, the one thing about us is that we are all family. We can disagree. I get yelled at by family on a pretty regular basis. And that's okay, because you know what? That means we're trying, and that means we're doing what we think is right. But you know what? I just wanted to give her a little bit of a shout out.
That's nice. That's nice. What a way to go out. Working with Warner Brothers on all this movie publicity. You guys had the junket here at Memphis and the screenings and all the press. And I think this movie's been so well covered in the press by a commitment by Warner Brothers.
Well, listen, and the funny thing is that, you know, not only does Debbie speak the language, and by the way, when we did the junket here, and I can't tell you, like, you know, I don't get starstruck much, but Tom Hanks telling stories right behind the mansion was kind of an incredible experience. Yeah. But, you know, the two heads of Warner Brothers marketing actually used to work for Debbie. So at the end of the day, you know, the gravitas that we got, you know, everything that we got is part of who we are, but it's also part of who they're at. And they did say it was the best junket they've ever done in their entire lives.
Wow, that's great.
You know, and even to the point where in this very, you know, I think I might be getting in so much trouble. I think for people who live in Memphis, you may have heard that The Young Rock, which is Dwayne Johnson's show on ABC, is going to be filming in Memphis. What people may or may, the whole entire season, what people may or may not know is actually it's being filmed at Graceland. Just another thing that Elvis would have loved. Elvis would have loved this to have been a hub for everything. I mean, when we're talking about the recording studios, there aren't many recording studios anymore, but I would love to be able to get into where we can have great musicians actually in a recording studio somewhere on property.
Oh, wow.
But he would have loved it to be just a hub of activity.
Yeah, and the conference center with all the different exhibits that come throughout to get people, locals and people traveling through for other things besides Elvis, and then they're exposed to Elvis and his music by coming here for those events.
Without getting too preachy, what we're trying to do is spread the gospel of Elvis.
There you go. Yeah.
It's really and there are no more faithful than we have in front of you.
Exactly. Talk about spreaders right here.
Super spreaders.
These are super spreaders.
Absolutely.
They've all seen the movie multiple times. They've all taken your challenge already, and they will continue to do it. No matter if it's in the theater or at home or on a phone, they're going to bring people to Elvis, and they're going to bring them to
and I can't tell you how much it's appreciated because, listen, there are financial aspects to everything that we do, but it's not mine. I'll tell you one quick story, and then. Listen, the guests this afternoon are absolutely incredible. Yeah. I can't wait to Barbara Eden and Pat Boone and obviously Cherry and Priscilla. You're gonna have an amazing afternoon. But the Memphis Business Journal, which is one of the newspapers, came in and they said, "Okay, the day we closed the purchase," and they said, "Well, what's your plan? What's your out plan for Graceland?" And what they meant was like, "Okay, you bought this. When are you gonna sell it?" And I looked at them, and I have an answer for everything. But I was really uncomfortable. I took a pause and I said, "My death," because this is really about, to me, a lifelong responsibility. And I don't mind saying it in front of you all. I don't mind saying it in front of everybody. I take this as a responsibility. You're not always going to be right. People are going to dislike things that we do. When we tried to get control of the planes, I got a lot of angry emails. I got a lot of angry texts. But we did what was best for the property. We needed to control what Elvis had. We're on a ride together. It's going to last the rest of our lives, and we're going to try to just make what Graceland is and the experience better and better and better for y'all.
Yeah. Our lives and our kids' lives and our grandkids' lives, and it's just going to roll on. From the guest house to Elvis Presley's Memphis to everything that you guys have done here for the last 10 years or more, and what you continue to do, from the promises that you've made or predictions that we didn't talk about. We say thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to say, listen, I can do everything up here, and it doesn't matter without you all. So so don't give me a round of applause and leave. Give yourself a round of applause. But thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the afternoon.
Thank you, Joel. It's so easy to forget what was here before, and how well everything has been organized for us, and the experience richer as we bring people in. The Icons exhibit for those people that might not be as aware of Elvis, but might be a fan of one of those people in that Icons exhibit. And suddenly now, Trisha Yearwood or The Rock or someone is saying Elvis is cool, and it resonates differently. All right, we're going to go to the movies now with Elvis, but we've got a main feature coming up here, but we've also have coming attractions. So before we have our main feature, you have to watch a movie trailer for what's coming soon to a theater near you.
Every man has a planet star, a planet keeping us there more than an hour. Just 5 minutes before we got here that she died. When we got here just a little sooner, she made me alive. You know it's his fault. Put that knife down. Get out of the way. She was 1,000 of them. They let her die.
Elvis Presley as Pacer, who became a legend in the West.
Don't say, sing-a-lang, sing-a, darling.
Torn between two loyalties, two loves, and fighting to save them both.
Not being my friend, you will be my enemy. And this house and all in it will die.
They won't hurt us, Pacer. They're our own people.
No, they ain't my people. To tell the truth, I don't know who's my people.
With Steve Forrest as Clint, Pacer's brother who battled courageously at his side. Barbara Eaton, the beauty who fired the conflict in Pacer's soul. And Dolores Del Rio and John McIntyre as the mother and father caught in the middle of a savage, relentless struggle.
Well, this looks like it's going to be a real bad war. Everybody in this whole part of Texas is going to be in it sooner or later.
It was a time of vengeance, of the land being challenged by white man and red. It was a time for Pacer to choose, and whichever path he took, he had to hurt someone he loved.
That looks like a good movie, doesn't it? Wow, I wish I had seen that in the movie theaters, but I've seen it so many times on television, and it's just an honor to bring out on this stage. I told her backstage that we have all been waiting on her for years, and she said, "Really?" Show her. Barbara Eaton.
I get to sit down? Okay.
We will sit down. I've been here all day. I have to sit down now. It is just so great. You're one of those names that I see our fans, and we talk about who we'd love to have come to Graceland, and you're right there at the top of the list, and to have you here, and to talk about Elvis and this movie that was so important, I think, to Elvis.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
And with what's been going on in the world, this is a chance for you to get out too, right?
You betcha. First time in 2 years I've been out. Well, I did one other show. Yeah. Before this.
But on a plane to Memphis.
Yeah. It was lovely. It was nice.
Yeah. That says a little bit about how much you love Elvis and that experience of working with him. Just a little bit about this movie. It came out in December of 1960 from 20th Century Fox, as we saw, and it came out only 4 weeks after G.I. Blues, which Elvis had made when he got right out of the Army. So by the end of 1960, when he gets out of the Army, in March, he's already got 2 movies in the theater. And this, a challenge for him, a dramatic role, and an opportunity for you as a young, upcoming actress in Hollywood as well.
Yes, indeed. It was, but he was wonderful, wonderful in the part.
Yeah.
It was his second film, and of course we always kind of laughed afterwards because he played a half-breed, he got killed, he didn't get the girl, and he didn't sing.
Yeah.
You know, and that was not good.
Yeah.
So they brought us back and he did that one song in the kitchen. But he was a fabulous natural actor, and he had a great work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
He really enjoyed doing a serious part, and that was certainly a serious part. I think he could have done so much more, because his talent was huge.
Yeah.
It wasn't just music. He was a good actor.
People,
when he had a good script, you know.
exactly. People talk about his presence, and you can see on screen, I don't think he ever looked better than he looked in your film.
Well, no, he looked wonderful. You know. But he was so real.
Mm-hmm.
There was nothing phony about him. He was a very sincere, real person. And I remember the first day I came on the set, he ran and got me a chair. Now, actors don't do that. You know, you could fall on the floor and they'd walk by you. But no, he was a gentleman. He was well-bred. His mommy brought him up right. She really did. He was lovely.
Southern gentleman.
Yes, he was. He was just, and very, how can I explain it? He was so human. and quite often, you know, in our field, you meet people that they don't let you see what they really are, you know, and he did. He was very open and sincere about everything.
And he came up to you when he met you for the first time, and he was a huge fan of your then husband, Michael and Sarah.
Yeah, well, I laughed because I think I'm the only leading lady that worked opposite him that they didn't make a big fuss over us having an affair. Because we didn't. But we were buddies, and he loved Michael and Sarah. I don't know how many of you remember him, but he was Cochise in The Broken Arrow, and he was very popular at the time. And Elvis, I said, how do you have time to watch television? And he said, well, you know, I'm really trapped in a hotel room. So that's all I do is watch television. I felt kind of sad about it.
Yeah.
And I really didn't, excuse me, understand what he was saying until I began to work singing again and was appearing in Vegas, and I realized, yeah, you are. You don't dare to go out of your hotel room because there's so many people down in the casino, and you know, I remember I used to drive out to Lake Mead just to look and see there's water. You know, there's a beautiful place to stare at, and I go back to the casino and do my 2 shows a night.
Movies are hard enough to make also, but you're on, not just in a movie studio with Elvis, you guys are out on location shooting a Western. I mean,
my goodness, that was, first of all, I really didn't know how to ride a horse. So they brought me out when Elvis was shooting, and all the men who all of them knew how to ride a horse. And the wranglers would take me out with the horse and show me what to do and which side to get up on and all that. And then it came the day at the end of the movie. There was this film after poor Elvis had died, you know, in the movie. And Clint, his brother, was up on the top of this hillside, and I was to ride the horse, fast, up the mountain, and we ended it in the sunset, looking out, you know, and reminiscing. So the guys got me on my horse, and we were sitting there, and I said, you know, there's an irrigation ditch over there. And they said, oh, that's all right, the horse knows what to do. Does Barbara know what to do? You know? So the horse did know what to do, thank God. We raced over the thing and then up the mountain, and all of a sudden I heard Barbara, duck, duck! And there was this big tree with a big branch sticking out, and I looked and I went, ducked, up to the top of the hill. Then I had to come down. Now, I don't know how many of you know how to ride a horse, but I had never been on one before, this thing. And the horse goes like this, and you're looking out as you go down the mountain. And I was so frightened after the irrigation ditch and the tree and the, you know, I was just shaking. I got off the horse, walked around a little bit, and they said, okay, get back up, we're going to do another take. Oh, So what did I do? I tried to get on the wrong side of the horse. Tried to get up, I think. And we did it, and it was okay after that. But oh my Lord, I have never been so frightened in my life.
You have to know a little bit of everything to be an actor. Riding horses and all kinds of things.
Yes, and you never say you can't do it.
Right.
Especially when you're young and you're trying to get started. You say you ride a horse. Oh, sure. Of course I do. Yeah, no.
Yeah. Now this movie, it was, Elvis's second movie back from the Army in 1960, and it was very early in your career, but you had actually had some earlier work on some things, and you got to work with another icon legend on I Love Lucy, and had a wonderful experience. So you knew what it was like to be around a legend, and had a wonderful experience.
Lucille Ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was wonderful. That was my, I can't tell you how wonderful she was to me. Because it was my third job.
Wow.
And the show just before I worked with Lucy, I had worked with another well-known actress who I adored. And then I came on the set and she was a little upset with how young I was. And they probably shouldn't have cast me for that part, but they did. And she marched out of her dressing room, got right in front of me, and looked me up, looked me down, and turned around and walked away. Not a hello, how are you, or anything. So when I worked with Lucy, I thought, okay, I'll just smile. I'll just keep things happy, and I will keep my mouth shut. But no, Lucy was lovely. She made sure that my costume was, I was playing a sexy little cousin of hers, and she made sure my dress was right. One day she said, "Barbara, come on over here." I said, "Uh-oh." I said, "You like that dress?" I said, "Oh, yes. I wasn't going to not like anything, believe me." And she said, "Take it off." So I thought, oh gosh, here we go. Nope. She and her secretary sat there and they punched those, grommets or whatever that sparkle on the dress to make it look prettier. Now that was Lucy. She was just a love.
Yeah, and then you're lucky enough to get on that set with Elvis, and when you look, because I'm a student of classic Hollywood, I grew up watching all these wonderful films and looking at names and credits and seeing what else they directed. Your director on this film was Don Siegel, who later, he had already directed Invasion of the Body Snatchers in the 50s. So he had sci-fi, he's doing a Western with you, and then a few years later he does Dirty Harry with Clint Eastwood.
Oh, yeah.
And directs John Wayne's last picture, The Shootist. So you were working with a Hollywood legend there also with Don Siegel, who seems like a rough and tumble, take no prisoners kind of director.
He was wonderful.
Yeah.
He was wonderful. We were so lucky to have him for that show. And I've forgotten who wrote the book. But he was...
I know the book is called Flaming Lance, was the name of the book.
Was that it?
So the book's called Flaming Lance, and they changed it to...
Flaming Star.
Flaming Star, but first it was Black Star.
Oh, was it?
It was Black Star.
Oh, my.
And Elvis recorded the song, and they didn't like that, so Elvis went back, and he had to record it as Flaming Star. So
oh, my goodness,
at least they got
know,
the Flaming
Lance
Lance in there a little bit. But it was based on a book.
Yeah.
And you guys are on location, spending time, and the one thing that happens on sets, even in sound stages, there's a lot of downtime. But on a movie being shot on location where you're waiting on clouds and jets to fly over, there's a lot of downtime. Do you remember any conversations?
Oh my goodness, yes, we had many.
Yeah.
Many conversations. We because he was so easy to talk to, and he had his friend and he had his guitar with him, and his daddy, and they would sing and we'd talk, and it's the first time I heard about Priscilla, but I didn't know her name. He asked, because he would ask me, Michael, my then husband, and I had a very good marriage, and we both worked and understood the industry. And Elvis was a little worried about that. He said, how do you keep a marriage together when there's so much pressure and so much, you know? And I said, well, it's a job. This is how we make our living, so we just do it. And he said, well, I met this girl in Germany. And he said, I really love her a lot, but I'm a little afraid to bring her back here with all this. Well, you know what goes on. You don't know, but we know what goes on. And I said, well, you just, if you love each other, you'll make it do. And then I learned, but I had no idea how young she was. He didn't tell me.
Yeah.
Oh boy, and such a pretty girl.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And the thing that happened with this movie, and it was followed by Wild in the Country, which was already kind of in pre-production when this movie came out. What happened, unfortunately for Elvis's career, G.I. Blues is a huge success, soundtrack album, huge success. Flaming Star doesn't do as well because there's really no singing.
Because he didn't sing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was,
and he died.
And he died. I mean, it was a triple threat of things happening here. And then Wild in the Country, which again showed his acting ability, is not as big a success as the previous movies have been. And then it's back to the next movie is Blue Hawaii, and then it just takes off to that. And he never really had that challenge again. And that's really, we hear from all people that worked with him as an actor is that he was a professional, he knew his lines, he was always wanting to learn, and he was always seeking that better role.
And it was more than know his lines. He just was the part that he was playing.
Yeah.
He was a natural. And I always thought it was so sad that he wasn't able to continue on with his acting.
Yeah.
But he loved to sing. I don't think you could keep him singing later on. I had an act at the MGM Grand, and I think Elvis was up at the Riviera of the Strip. And my husband, Mike, in between shows came to me and said, Barbara, you've got to go see Elvis. And I said, I can't. I usually don't do anything when I'm singing. I stay there. He said, you've got to come. I'm so glad I did. He was thrilling. I mean, really. All those guitars, on stage with him, and then his singing. I just, I can't even breathe when I'm thinking about it right now.
Wow.
He's so talented, such a talented soul, really.
Yeah, and by that time, you had quite the career and quite the name. And as you're sitting here in front of me, I have to say that it's only a few years after you're working with Elvis that you get a TV role that kind of changes your life and our lives too. You find some way to get in a genie's bottle and.
Yeah, but I got out too.
I never knew what Tony Nelson's problem was having a genie. I couldn't. But you worked with, I believe, two of the best sitcom actors, and Larry went on to prove what a great dramatic actor he was. But Larry Hagman and Bill Daly, I'm a huge Bill Daly fan. And to have those two with you, it just must have been, tough hours, long hours. But you guys seem to always have a friendship that carried on through the years.
Well,
you even guested on Dallas later on.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
That's right. But I also worked with Larry during his last days in Australia, and I went to Germany with him because he was doing something. I've forgotten what in Germany, but I was there with him, and that was the last I saw of him. That's another one that should still be with us, really.
I think it was fitting that he was working on Dallas, though. He was playing JR. When he passed away.
Well, he really knew that character,
Oh,
because he was raised in Texas, and his daddy and his brother were both attorneys in Texas, and so He knew those guys.
And then, you know, in the Elvis world, everything connects. So, Larry, you work with Elvis. Larry works with you. Larry gets Dallas. You guest on Dallas. Priscilla guest stars on Dallas for 5 seasons. So it all kind of connects.
It does.
You know.
It does.
But looking at Flaming Star now and in your career, and looking at all the great roles you had, can you believe? And you've worked with all kinds of legends. That here we sit 45 years after we haven't seen Elvis, and he's got the #1 soundtrack album, opened #1 at the box office with his life story, and here we sit 45 years later at this massive complex across the street from Graceland.
Well, he deserves it. He deserves it.
And we have someone coming up in just a moment that, again, showbiz, just everything, you know, works together. And our next gentleman was a singer and an actor. And when you're a singer and an actor, you take on roles where perhaps you're called on to kiss your co-star. And this gentleman had made many movies, but none of the roles required being kissed or kissing on screen until he made a little movie called All Hands on Deck in 1961, and his Pat Boone's first screen kiss.
Well, now it's not only the screen kiss. I think I was the first kiss other than Shirley, his wife. So, the day we did the kiss, Shirley was there and all 4 daughters. Right there. Talk about pressure.
You're breaking up this home. Well, it's been so wonderful to have you here. We thank you for getting out.
Thank you.
And coming
I've
here.
so enjoyed it.
Come here to share the stories of a guy that we love, and
Well, I love
we love the movies. We really do. And Flaming Star is a special one, even if you only got to sing one song together.
Well, I didn't sing in the show.
You were all dancing, though.
I hopped around, but I'm not sure it was dancing.
Well, Richard Jekyll was dancing with a chair, so at least you got off better than that. It's great to have you here.
Thank you.
And everybody, she made it. Barbara Eden. I'm of a particular generation. Oh, yeah, okay. I'm so glad she did the genie blink because, trust me, I was going to ask. But the thing I've learned after years in show business is anything controversial that might upset a guest or they might not want to do, you wait until last. So she did it when she walked out, and then I knew I was going to be okay. And then she did it again. Was that special? Barbara Eden. All right, we've kind of already told you who's going to be next, and I've had the pleasure to interview this gentleman a couple of times. I went to see his autobiographical show in his hometown of Nashville, Tennessee, a few years ago. A guy who was back there in the 50s, and you know, the press tried to set it up where they were competing against each other, but actually they were friends. There was no competition at all. But he's here today because he wanted to be a part of this great celebration of Elvis's life and memory, Mr. Pat Boone. There he is. Let's hear it for Pat Boone. Okay, yeah.
Hello, everybody. What brings you here? as the movie started.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if you could hear us backstage, but we
I
were.
couldn't hear you, but some of us read lips.
Oh, okay.
And some of those things were pretty shocking.
Yeah, well. Did you hear us talking about when Pat Boone got his first screen kiss and All Hands on Deck from Barbara Eden?
Honestly, I can't say I heard it, but I remember it. I do remember it. And there's a little story that goes with that. Maybe you want to wait till we're...
No, but we want to hear, we'll hook onto that and move on to Elvis.
Okay, well, that was, I think, my third movie. And I'd already made 2 movies. One was Shirley Jones, and let me see, the next was, there was no big major star in the first, called Bernadine. It was a film about teenagers, and the next was April Love with Shirley Jones, and there was no kiss in the script. And I was 22 years old, and I didn't know I was going to make movies, and I hadn't even talked to my wife, Shirley, with whom I'd already had 3 kids, and we were expecting our 4th at 22 or 23. When I graduated from college, we had 4 kids already, so I should have been jailed or neutered. One of the They thought Elvis was sexy. I had 4 kids already when we first met. That was Elvis.
You had to be a success.
Yeah. So anyway, when the director of the film, Henry Levin, said, when you get to the end of this music scene on the Ferris wheel in Kentucky, lean in and kiss Shirley Jones. And I said, on the mouth? I said, yeah, of course. But I said, Henry, this wasn't in the script. Well, you got to kiss the leading lady. I said, yeah, but I haven't talked to my wife, Shirley, about this. And I know it sounds naive, but I was naive. And I said, I don't know if it's going to be a problem if I go home and tell her I spent half this day kissing our friend Shirley Jones. So he said, okay, we'll do it later in the film. But this was a perfect place to see you kiss Shirley Jones. But I didn't, so I went home and I talked to my wife, Shirley, that night. She said, I'm way ahead of you. If you're going to you got a 7-year movie deal, I know there's going to be some kissing going on. But I want you to promise me one thing. I said, what? She said, you won't enjoy it. I promise, I won't enjoy it. I went back to the studio and to tell the head of the studio that actually he called me in. He was livid because he'd heard that I balked at kissing Shirley Jones, and it hit the trade papers. The Hollywood Reporter and Variety said, actor refuses to kiss leading lady. And they assumed for religious reasons, which it wasn't. I just wanted to stay married. And so I said, I told Betty, okay, I have permission from my wife to kiss Shirley Jones. Well, by the time we got to the place where I would have done that, the studio was swamped, I'm not kidding you, with telegrams and letters from all over the country. Stick to your guns, boy. And I said, somebody in a movie with morals. Wow. And then he said, well, I've already told the press that you've talked to the director and you will be kissing Shirley Jones. I said, Mr. Adler, that sounds like, because it was wrongly announced, that I made a religious decision, but after talking to the director, I've changed my mind.
Yeah.
I said, I don't think I can kiss Shirley Jones in this film until, maybe another film happens and I'll have the opportunity to kiss somebody else, or maybe Shirley Jones. And so I didn't kiss her in the film. And of course, then I did another movie, I forget, and then the film with
All Hands on Deck, yeah.
And I kissed, and I still remember that kiss, and I told Shirley I didn't enjoy it. I didn't tell Barbara that.
Well, we understand. We understand. I talked about this in your intro, and it was that back in the 50s, you and Elvis were battling it out late in the decade on the charts.
Yeah.
And they tried to make a rivalry, Pat Boone, Elvis rivalry on the charts.
And
but
there was.
But you guys were friends.
We
met.
were two boys from Tennessee.
Yeah.
Me from Nashville, him from Memphis. The first time I met him, had you heard about the time I first met him?
In 1950.
In Cleveland?
In Cleveland, yes. I think we have a photograph of a couple of photos of that.
Yeah, I mean, we were two Tennessee boys who knew we were extremely lucky that these things were happening beyond what anything that we had expected or could expect. And so he had made one record for Sun Records, which was Blue Moon of Kentucky, which is a Bill Monroe bluegrass song. Blue Moon of Kentucky, keep on shining. Well, but he put a little beat to that. And Elvis did it a little differently with a little R&B flavor. And when we met in Cleveland backstage, because Bill was introducing him, and the kids didn't know who he was because they hadn't heard anything from him yet. He said, "Kids, you don't know this guy, young man, but he's been signed by RCA Victor, and they expect big things, so just give a nice hand to young Elvis Presley." So Elvis walked out, and with, I think, Scotty Moore and maybe Bill Black, and they pantomimed the record. I've got a picture from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame of him that night on stage. When we met backstage, before he went on, I said, "Hi, Elvis, I'm Pat Boone." "Nice to meet you." I said, and he seemed very shy. I said, "Well, Bill Randall thinks big things may be ahead for you." "I don't know about that, but I hope so." And he leaned back against the wall, and his buddies closed in around him like he didn't want to keep talking. I asked him about that years later when we were much closer, and I said, "That night in Cleveland, I was worried for you." He said, "Why?" I said, "You seemed scared or shy." Well, he said, "I didn't know how to talk to you, man." I said, "What do you mean? You were a star." I said, "A star? I'd only been recording since March." He said, "Yeah, but you had 3 hits already," which I did.
Yeah.
My first 3 records were million sellers like that. And I was the headliner of the sock hop, and he was the newcomer. So he went on, and he lip-synced Blue Moon of Kentucky, and then when he finished it, "Thank you very much. I'd like to do the other side of that record for you. Hope you like it." And he said, "That's all right, Mama. That's all right with me." And they loved that, and I did too. I was backstage. I said, there may be some big things ahead for him after all. And not doing country with rock flavor, but, you know, the way he was doing it. But when he finished, he left, and I went on, and I got the screams that night. And then we didn't see each other for 2 years. And when we were both renting homes in Bel Air, making movies at 20th Century Fox simultaneously, and we'd visit each other on the movie sets, and sometimes break for lunch at the same time, go in and eat lunch with Spencer Tracy and Elizabeth Taylor and Clark Gable and whoever else was making movies at 20th then. Cary Grant's dressing room was between Elvis and mine, and he just sat out there with a reflector. He had to bring him a sandwich, and he sat getting the sun on his face. And deep into the cliff on his chin.
Yeah.
And so Elvis and I remained dear friends, visiting each other in each other's homes, and watching each other go up and down the charts. I had, believe it or not, 41 chart records in the 50s. Elvis had 40. But remember, I had a 6-month head start, and the good sense never to follow Elvis again.
Yes.
And so we just were friendly competitors.
Yeah. But Elvis opened for Pat Boone that night in Cleveland.
He did. He opened for me, and it was the one and only time that ever occurred. But I so appreciated him and his talent, which we all underestimated in the beginning. We thought he was a flash in the pan, and the way he moved around the stage, it would come and go, and you know, he couldn't find songs to match all of that. So we didn't think. Of course, he found plenty of songs, and he managed to combine how he felt about those songs physically on stage, and found that the kids loved that.
Yeah.
And he didn't mean it always to be sexual. It certainly was, but because it was him doing it. I mean, that was. But he said, and I believe him, I just like to sing the songs the way I feel them. And if you saw the movie, and I have, this recent film, then they correctly show him going first to the little Assembly of God church.
Right, yeah.
And with his mama and his dad, and worshiping with everybody else. And he loved it. He said, I knew every one of the songs in the songbook. I could sing them all by heart. Then he went to the black church too, and it was called a Holy Roller Church, and there was screaming and hands in the air and being slain in the spirit and falling back, and lots of excitement and rhythmic singing, and he loved that. And that, I think, influenced his way of singing when he got on stage. He wanted to feel the release that he felt in the black church and the spirituality that he felt inside, even in the Assembly of God church, and he brought that into his shows. And his intent was not to be ravingly sexual, but he loved hearing the screams of the kids, and he learned that, at least with the twitch he did, they just wanted to know what was coming next, you know.
You were in the 50s, you were the boy that the moms wanted the girl to bring home to meet. And Elvis was the boy that your mother warned you about.
That's true, and that means he was Mr. Excitement, and I was Mr. Not really, I mean, but that's the way I felt about it. While I was still in college, I wrote a book of advice for teens called Twixt 12 and 20. Some people here today may have a copy of that book because it was in some of the libraries all over. Twixt 12 and 20, a good advice, and I'm still in college. And it was #1 bestseller, million seller for a couple of years. And then, of course, I didn't know what to do with the money that was coming in, so I offered it to a startup Christian college that was going to start up in Villanova, Pennsylvania. Well, the book made over $2 million, and I gave all the money to the startup of the school, which became Northeastern Institute for Christian Education, acronym NICE. That was a word I was trying to escape. You know, because Elvis was that exciting singer. Pap, who's that nice one that you want to emulate? And yet we were having record for record back and forth. And I was singing rock and roll. I was doing Tutti Frutti and Long Tall Sally and Rip It Up and Ain't That a Shame. Having my own rock records and being a teen idol. But I was married with 4 kids and a church-going guy, and never any scandal about me, and theoretically unavailable. Where Elvis was theoretically, maybe, possibly, in some crazy dream, available. and so I tried to escape being called that nice Pat Boone.
Yeah. Now, with a career and your love of music, like you said, in Nashville, growing up and singing and having a career like even before you got out of college, it seems like singers, and it still happens today, Hollywood, and maybe Sinatra might have been the first, you're a singer and Hollywood comes knocking on the door, and you're expected to be able to take a talent in one thing and do it in something else.
Sometimes you can do it, and sometimes you can't.
Yeah. Your film career, you've made some great movies.
Big movies, successful films, Journey to the Center of the Earth.
My personal favorite, Goodbye Charlie.
Goodbye Charlie, I loved the song. Andre Previn wrote that great song, and I sang it like Sinatra. I mean, that was the thing. I was too versatile for my own good, because I could sing rock and roll, and I really would get down. I even did dirty blues. I don't mean dirty. I mean just down and dirty, blues.
Yeah.
Oh well, I'm going to New York, get on a TV quiz show. I'll find myself some more of that dough. Well, I'm going to New York. Yes, I'm going to New York. Yes, I'm going to New York. I'm going if I have to walk. You make one for me cry when you said goodbye. Fast record was Roll. You should You made me cry. You made me cry. Let's see, you made me cry. When you say goodbye, ain't that a shame?
Oh, I'm with you.
I'm trying to remember exactly how he did it, but it was a rolling kind of a thing. When I did it, you made bop, bop, me cry, bop, bop, when you said bop, bop, goodbye, ain't that a shame? Now, that was my rocking version, and his was the rolling version, but his was a #1 R&B record, sold 150,000. R&B was not known to pop music at that point. It was a separate genre. And so he had 150,000 sales, #1, and then I recorded as my second record in 1955 before I met Elvis, and it sold 1.5 million, boom, like that. And he said many times, Fats, I made more money from Pat Boone's record than from my own record.
He wrote it.
He wrote it, published it, and actually, my record royalty at that point was very low. I think he made more money from my record than I did. But I went to New Orleans once. I was at the Fairmont Hotel, and Fats was at Al Hurt's place, and I went between shows to hear Fats. Pat went to see Fats, and he was really doing great. And he heard I was there, and he called me to come down and sit on the piano bench with him. And Fats didn't talk much; he just played with 2 or 3 of his musicians. But he said, "You folks see this ring?" And he had rings on all his fingers, but he said, "This big piano-shaped diamond ring, this man bought me this ring with this song, You, Me." Yeah. And I sang Ain't That a Shame with Fats. Because we were good for each other. When Elvis and I did the black artist songs, it brought them across into pop music where they weren't even known.
Right. And to link that together, because we were talking with Barbara, and it seems like Elvis kind of swirls through so many stories of people that you would think would be unconnected. As you say that about Fats Domino, it was at the press conferences in summer of '69 when Elvis was opening in Vegas that the press welcomed him to venue. They said, "Elvis, the king of rock and roll." And at the press conference, standing with the group of people with Elvis was Fats Domino.
Yeah.
And Elvis said to the press, no, that's the king of rock and roll.
That's right. That's Elvis. Yeah. That's the unselfish Elvis and the accurate Elvis. And of course, I said the same thing about Little Richard. When Little Richard, people, the black DJ asked him, and I've got the tape of this, in which he said, "How'd you feel when Pat Boone did your song Tutti Frutti?" He said, "I was still washing dishes in a bus station in Macon, Georgia. My record was getting played on the radio, but I wasn't making no money now." He said, "But when I heard Pat Boone did my song, I threw the towel down and walked out. I was going to make some money now." And that, honey baby, is the truth.
You've got an ear for a hit.
Yeah. I mean, well, actually, Randy Wood of Dot Records, he picked all those songs. I must say, honestly, I don't think I would have chosen those songs. I'm so glad he did, but that's what was happening. It was white record producers discovering these hooky, fun, commercial songs only known to, it was called race music, R&B, rhythm and blues, and pop DJs knew nothing about it. But when the white producers were hearing these songs, they said, "Whoa, my first record was Two Hearts, Two Kisses, hit by the Charms on the Dutone label. One heart's not enough, baby. Two hearts will make you feel crazy. One kiss will make you feel so nice. Two kisses take you to paradise. Two hearts, two kisses make one love." And that was just happening, that people were discovering black music. And recently, you'll appreciate this, I did an album because I kept recording. I've lived twice as long as Elvis, and I'm still going. But
there's only a 7-month age difference, right, between you and Elvis, I think.
And the birthdays. Yeah, I was born June 1st, and he was born
January 8th.
Yeah, so I was born 6 months before him. And we both knew that. We were same age, two Tennessee boys. But eventually, several years ago, I recorded an album some of you may know I did a heavy metal album too. Smoke on the Water and Crazy Train and even anyway, Long Way to the Top. Anyway, these. Then I did another album of R&B classics with the original performers. This time it was new versions, sounded just like their original versions, but me singing with the original performers, like Smokey Robinson, Tears of the Clown, We Are Family, Sister Sledge, and that's the name of my album, is We Are Family. And then I went to Detroit, recorded with Levi Stubbs and the Four Tops, Can't Help Myself, Sugar Pie, Honey Brother. And all those songs I did Way of the World with Earth, Wind, and Fire, Maurice Burdine White and all of them. I went to Augusta and recorded with the Godfather, James Brown. And Papa's got a brand new bag. I get out of I know this is supposed to be about Elvis, but I mean, Elvis would have loved knowing about this. This happened after he passed, but James Brown met me at the street corner. He sent a limo to me and Ollie Brown, the big black guy that produced this album with me. And he met me in a three-piece brown suit and shiny brown boots with brass tips on the toes. And, you know, he just dressed like he was going out somewhere. And I just black T-shirt and jeans and Ollie Brown, the producer, the same way. But we met on the sidewalk, and there was a film crew. I wish to God I had the copy of the tape. But we hugged, because we'd never met before. And I felt the muscular James Brown, and he met the muscular Pat Boone. And because I was in shape too, and he says, how much you weigh? How much I weigh? Yeah, how much you weigh? I said, I weigh 185, I think. That's what I weigh. I said, James, it comes up to about here. You don't weigh 185. Yeah, I do. I'm 185, but I'm tight. And he was very tight. And we recorded the song at his studio. I'd already done the music track, but then put it on so he can sing with me, and he stopped it after about 30 seconds. He said, you got my groove. How you get my groove? And Ollie Brown said, I produced this, Mr. Brown. He said, I grew up in Detroit. And I as a teenager, I learned to play every lick on every one of your songs, every drum lick on every one of your songs. I only found out recently you had 2 drummers. Brown said, I got 3 now. But so all this kept going in my career as I was learning, and I was too versatile or something for my own good, because I did country, I did pop, I did rock and roll, I did patriotic, I'm in the Gospel Music Hall of Fame. Elvis and I both neither got Grammys, except his for his gospel records after he was gone. Yeah. But it's because we preceded the Grammys. Yeah. There weren't Grammys when he and I were having our
at the best at the top
heyday. Yeah. So he continued on as the greatest entertainer who ever lived, and I continue on as Mr. Nice.
And we love that.
Not as exciting.
I'm so glad you have your white shoes on,
yeah,
too.
My white fuck shoes. Yeah,
that's the trademark of Pat Boone.
If I ever get in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which I won't, but because even though I had more rock hits than many that are in there, you know, how can you be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame if you're in the Gospel Music Hall of Fame, and you've already recorded big band swing albums? And like the one Goodbye Charlie. Yeah. I mean, I wasn't sticking to just rock and roll. Yeah, I sang rock and roll. I loved it.
Well, when you have a neighbor like Ozzy Osbourne, obviously metal is going to happen in your life. So, I mean, you and Ozzy, and you have such great friendships with all different kinds of musicians. They love you because you understand their music.
Well, I do, and actually when I did the heavy metal album, Ozzy had just moved in next door to me, literally over the hedge from me in Beverly Hills. I hadn't met him yet, but I'd done Crazy, hey, that's how it goes. Millions of people living as fools. I sang it better than that, but like his, and I go out to get the mailbox, and he's walking out of his house, which he just moved into, and there's a black Escalade there, going to pick him up, and I said, hi, Ozzy, I'm Pat Boone. I never heard think I'd say that to my neighbor. Hi, Ozzy. Ozzy Osbourne. And he said, well, hi, Dad, how are you? He says, I got to go to the AA meeting, but he said, when I come home, we get together and have some tea, okay? And we did, and we got to be friends. And the only thing that happened that, you know, people might have thought I'd have been upset about, he's there 3 years, but he moved just before he started the Osbournes TV show. And I tuned in to see what the excitement was about, and I hear my version of Crazy Train as his theme song. Crazy, hey, that's how it goes. Millions of people. And they like my version of his song. He used it as his theme song. That's right. Yeah. And so people said, well, what was it like to live across right next to Ozzy Osbourne? I said, we got along great. I think it's because we never called the police.
He says the same thing about you, too. It has been wonderful to have you
Could
here.
I tell you one quick thing?
Sure.
I did this album, and it's me singing, Pat Boone sing. It was going to be Pat Boone sings Elvis Presley. However, and it is me doing his great songs, and I did it in the late 60s as tribute to him, to my friend. Because we singers did that. I would record Andy Williams songs, Johnny Mathis would record mine. We did each other's songs. So I did this album of his big hits, and when Colonel Tom Parker, the snowman, heard about, he says, I told him, and I said, I'm almost through with this album, and I want to get it to you and Elvis because I'm doing my version of his great hits. Oh, boy, like that. He said, I'll tell him. He said, but now we got to talk about royalty. I said, royalty? I said, oh, you're going to get lots of royalty. You guys published all these songs, or he wouldn't have done them. And then you got enlisted as co-writer on some of the songs, which I know must have come as a big surprise to the other writers. And he laughed because he knew I was onto him. And he said, no, I mean for the use of his name in the title, Pat Boone Sings Elvis. I said, well, it's a tribute to him. What else? He says, I know, but did you put his name in there? I said, business is business. And he says, you put his name in there, it'll sell more records. And so I said, when I told the head of our recording company that, he said, stop it, scrap it. Scrap it. Don't do it. What were you screaming about? You just seeing that? Yeah. Well, I had a painter do me in a gold lame suit and the Elvis clothes. I put the title of all the songs, there's no question, but then you do turn it over and I do the backliner notes about my friend Guess Who'sley. And I don't mention Elvis' name at all. And so I got this card from Tom Parker. He had created a little known thing, a little organization called Snowmen's League. People who hustled other people, who snowed other people. And he gave the card very sparingly to people he considered hustlers like he was. And he sent me a card with my name on it. You're making me a member of the Snowmen's Club. Because I out-hustled the hustler.
That's amazing.
Oh, good. The evening's entertainers were slowly sinking into a snowbank while we watched Tommy Dorsey's stage show featuring a new young singer named Guess Who'sley. I'd heard some exciting predictions concerning this truck-driving rock and roller from Memphis and wanted to see his national debut. Snowman.
Snowman.
Thank you. This is turning out to be be a cool afternoon. Man, I tell you. Okay, let's just calm down. I would have just let him sing all afternoon. That'd be fine with me. He's going to be a part of our celebration tomorrow morning, I believe, for the 45, the special Sapphire collection. So hopefully hear some of those tunes at that. We have an announcement. Just in. I mean, it was just in. There are cars parked in the pull-through in front of the mansion wall. If it is your car, you need to move it immediately. They are setting up for candlelight, and you won't be able to get it until Thursday. Or, more than likely, it'll just be towed away. So, actually, I'd go with that one myself. But yeah, cars parked, that little pull-through when you come off of Elvis Presley that are parked there, you need to get, if that's any of you, you're not going to get up right now, I'm sure, because we're all looking at you. But when the lights go down, you want to sneak on out and get your car in the pull-through right there. All right, now we've talked about the music of Elvis and what the movie has done for that, and I wanted to give you a couple of little things that had happened in the world of the Elvis movie, statistically speaking. When it premiered at the Cannes Film Festival, it received a longer standing ovation, 12 minutes, than Top Gun Maverick. 12 minutes standing ovation. Now, Top Gun Maverick, it's a cool movie, it really is, and it's gone over $1 billion. I mean, it's just one of those once-in-a-lifetime kind of movies, and Cruise is incredible in it, and it's 30-something years later, so it's had a lot of momentum, and it was still #1 at the box office, on its way to that $1 billion when the Elvis movie opened on June 24th, and all of us waited all weekend. We have never paid so much attention to opening weekend box office as we all did that weekend, and as of Sunday night even, it was tied, and I thought, one more person didn't go to Elvis than how can it be tied? What are the chances that the exact same number of people, and then I realized one of you went to a cheaper matinee, and that's what happened. But it won opening weekend when they counted everything. $31.5 million. And it knocked Top Gun to #2. As of a week ago, it had grossed worldwide over $240 million. It is the #2 music biopic behind Bohemian Rhapsody. And I say this with all peace and love because I love Freddie Mercury and Queen. We're coming after you. Because we have the champion. I checked this morning on the soundtrack charts, the Billboard soundtrack charts. In 3rd place on the Billboard soundtrack charts, the soundtrack to Xanadu, because of the passing of Olivia, who Elvis loved. If you love me, let me know. If you don't, then leave it. #2 on the soundtrack charts, Grease, Olivia. #1 on the motion picture soundtrack charts, Elvis. It premiered on August 9th on Premium Video, just in time for us in our hotel rooms to watch it. On August 9th on Premium Video on Demand, and rent and download to own on Amazon and Vudu and iTunes and Google Play and wherever you get RCA records and tapes. And it's coming to DVD and Blu-ray on September 13th. And maybe a 4-hour version, if Joel knows something we don't, pretty soon after that. But there's someone that we have to thank, but he wanted to say thanks instead. We have a special guest. Take a look.
Actually, as I like to say, I'm really sad to be in Graceland in Memphis for Elvis Week. It's always a special time, but it's going to be amazing this year. I mean, you know, it was only a couple of weeks ago that we were so graciously hosted by Priscilla and Lisa Marie and Riley and Jerry Schilling, the whole family, sitting out the back there having a barbecue in the jungle room, and the end of the creation of the film had come. We brought the world press, and now, through a lot of the love that you had given, the film has gone throughout the world, still playing in cinemas right now throughout America. You can download it, it's in cinemas throughout the world, and you know, a whole new generation has come to discover Elvis through the film. And now it's Elvis Week, which I know is going to run from August 9th through to the 17th. There's going to be extraordinary things happening with Elvis on the big screen, and gospel dinners, and you know, of course, Priscilla and Jerry and all sorts of Elvis's friends being there to host you all. So it's going to be an exceptional and special time, particularly this year. So a big shout out, lots of love, and of course, as always, I know you great fans will be taking care of business.
Has he not been great on social media? It made me start following social media. All the kids, that TikTok thing that they've got, it's amazing. But he was, I mean, even in the limos at Cannes, sending out messages to us about what was going on. And if you saw the photographs of Cannes, and if you saw the photographs of the Met Gala when they were having the Fashion Week, and all the cast, and Priscilla and everyone, they were dressed in their Prada, and they were all just very, you know, supermodel on the red carpet. And my friend from North Memphis was there on that red carpet. He was just happy as a clam to be there. Jerry Schilling.
Thank you, guys. I've never had a reception like that.
It's about time.
Pat Boone for my opening act. Just kidding, Pat. One of the nicest guys in the world.
Yes.
Thank you, guys. That meant a lot.
Welcome to this. It's oh, look at you. You've got your blue suedes on. That's right.
I got to keep up with Tom.
You know.
This is the Tom and Jerry show.
202 in Memphis 2, right here.
Yeah.
It's so great to talk to you. We've talked on the phone. The last time I saw you was birthday of 20 before everything happened. And we did a great bus tour going to your old neighborhoods and all around where you guys used to hang out and play in the city. And we found out, you know, how much Memphis was just a playground for Elvis and all of you guys, and how important the city is. And through the course of all that, you know, as they were saying, as Joel was saying, that Tom Hanks, the first really person we heard about getting COVID while he was in Australia. And we sit here now with this movie, and I just gave those numbers of box office and #1 charts on soundtracks and downloads, and the amount of people, over 50-something% under the age of 35, listening and streaming Elvis music. It just must blow you away, because you've been involved in so many projects over the years, but nothing is broken like this movie has done.
No, this movie has really set my friend's legacy for eternity. Daz Lyman worked on this so hard, so diligently, for many years. Priscilla, I, a different date, met him 3 years ago, and you know, and then had a lunch with him and his wife, Catherine Martin, who is a kind of unsung hero. She's a writer, producer, 3 times Oscar winner for wardrobe, still that great wardrobe, and you know, it's. I was saying yesterday that I know what the '68 comeback special did while Elvis was alive for his career. I know how he was prior to that, I know that gave him the real, he knew he had it, he knew the audience, he knew the fans were with him again, and he could go back to the road. I think this is the 68 legacy comeback. This film came out exactly 68 years ago from his first record, and when I met him. So.
And numerology, Elvis with numbers, there's something to that. We think about that thread of Elvis that runs through all that. And this movie, and as I think I told you yesterday, we were talking, all of us have seen it way more than once. Some of us I'm worried about. I met a couple who had seen it on opening day and a bunch of times, and they were finding a time during the week, I believe this week, to go down to Tupelo to see it, because it's still in the theater, because they wanted a ticket that said Tupelo, Malco, Elvis.
Nice.
So, and I told them I could have sold them mine. I would have brought a bunch of them if I'd known that. But it's something that a generation is finding. But before I talk about that, I want to talk about what happened with you guys with the very stodgy, snobby world of the International Film Festival, the Cannes Film Festival, and bringing Elvis to Cannes, and how important it was for Baz to have it on that kind of thing. Because I'm sure there were people saying, why are we spending that kind of money? Let's just open it in theaters. We're not worried about it. But Cannes happened, and just tell us from your inside perspective about how Cannes came about and how you and Priscilla got involved in that.
Well, I think it was at the end of February. Baz was at Warner Brothers in Hollywood, and he was going to show Priscilla and I a cut of the film. I got a nice long email from Baz saying, and the film was over 4 hours at that point, you know. So I got a nice email from Baz, and he just said, Jerry, we have a shot at the Cannes Film Festival, but they have to have a cut-down version. I have to go to Australia because that's where all of his editing was, editing equipment and everything. So he said, I'll be back in April, and I'll show you and Priscilla a final cut. So at that time it was fine, you know. I said, I think it's more important that it goes to Cannes than Priscilla and I see it this week. So then, weeks later, Baz had asked Priscilla and I if we would go to the Cannes Film Festival and to the Metro Gala in New York. I, being from Memphis, you know, I'm thinking they're both in the same city. You know, $35,000 a seat for the Metro Gala. So, and then I had to apologize, Baz, I'm sorry, you know, I'm from North Memphis, and I didn't know the Met. But anyway, you know, Priscilla and I talked, and she said, we haven't seen the film yet, which we always want to do before, you know, you endorse me. We felt good about it. We had spent a little time with Baz and Tom Hanks, but we really didn't work on this. And so I think people think we did, and when we get compliments, I say, yeah, we really worked hard. So anyway, we had a week in order, we had a few days in order to make a decision, because Prada was making Priscilla's dresses, my tuxedo, my tie, all this. We had all the reservations and everything, and we hadn't seen the film. So anyway, long story short, I called Catherine Martin, Baz's wife, and I said, you know, tell me about what all this is, the Metro Gala. I knew what the Cannes Film Festival was, even being from North Memphis. So, and I said, well, you know, I don't think Priscilla's going. I don't know, because she hasn't seen the film. I said, we really need, she said, well, Baz was coming in next week. I said, yeah, but we have to make the decision. So anyway, called back. Priscilla and I were at Warner Brothers the next day, private screening. And we had no idea, we just went with a clean slate to see what this was. And I sat on one side of the theater, Priscilla sat on the other. As the movie we sat together, and at the end of it, I'll never forget, she looked at me with this great smile and said, I guess we're going to Cannes.
Wow. And one of the things we talked about yesterday when you were over and we were talking about Elvis on Tour that you worked on as an editor, you must have been blown away by the visuals in this film, because there's so much going on with editing style, but there's also so much going on in the frame of the film. And I know you well enough to know that you still look at things as an editor, you still look at things artistically and look at how they put them together and kind of tear it apart and put it back. This is such an intricate movie, and it makes me think Baz is the perfect filmmaker with that style for a subject like Elvis.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, there are scenes where, I look over and she would go, is that Austin or is that Elvis? It was the visual editing and the music sound editing. Sometimes you couldn't tell the difference. And, I've been in the editing business and film business like you, Tom, for a long time. And I've always used to say I've met three, and I'll still say that, I've met three geniuses in my life. The first one was Elvis Presley. The second one was Colonel Parker. Yes, he deserves applause. And the third, became real good friends of Sam Phillips, and I produced a biography on him. I don't know anywhere else in the world that Elvis Presley in 1953-54 could have walked in and gotten a record deal. That's the brilliance of Sam Phillips. I've added a fourth now, Baz Luhrmann. I hope he hears about this, but anyway.
Yeah, we watched that movie and were transported, especially the Memphis scenes, back to that Beale Street time, and I saw some, back in the months they were shooting the movie, some helicopter paparazzi shots of the physical sets that Baz built, buildings with antique cars, and I'm thinking, where are they finding all those cars in Australia? But they found them, and he's building it in such a way that it's a real physical space. And you being a Memphian through and through, what was that like to see your Memphis again in real space?
Well, I would have thought it was my real Memphis.
Yeah.
Though I knew that it was all built in Australia, and some of the hardships that this cast, crew, and director went through. There were big Australian fires, I'm sure you heard of, a couple of years ago, burned all that down. Besides that, and then Tom Hanks getting COVID, they had to stop production again. But during that time period, and the movie they were going through rehearsals that had started, and all this happened. Priscilla and I flew to Cannes with Tom Hanks and Austin Butler. It was a great flight, and I'm such a name dropper, as Lisa always says, but we went on the Warner jet, and there was the four of us, and it was a great slumber party. But both Tom Hanks and Austin, in different ways, said that time period that they had to shut down, and they didn't know if it was going to be able to come back, because Tom had other commitments. That made the film get to a deeper level, and a lot of thinking and introspective. Baz was still working it off the camera and everything. But they all said that changed the film. The film would have been a great film anyway. But that deep level that we all feel when we watch it, and understand so much more about Elvis. And, you know, there's some things in his legacy that, you know, I think have been unjustly questioned. And I think this film, without hitting you on the head, lets you know that Elvis loved everybody. As he said, yes.
He was ahead of his time.
Always ahead of his time. That was the most important thing to me.
Yeah, yeah. Also in this film, I think the casting all the way through the cast of characters, and how Baz went about presenting those characters and hearing a little bit about what's in that 4-hour version, some storylines that obviously had to get cut down. That is one of the hardest things to do. And you being a film editor, I mean, that must have been torture. He shot scenes that they built sets for, and they lit, and they rehearsed, and they shot, and you've got to get rid of stuff. It's just almost, and he lost almost another movie cutting that out. That must have killed him as a creative, because that was the version he wanted, and this was a version that he had to make. So, you know, I wonder what's there, and I hope one day we see it, but when we're ready, you know, when they're ready.
I hope so. I'm sure there's a lot of great stuff. I know there is. I mean, not from seeing it, but knowing Baz, knowing the cast and everything, there's got to be just a lot of great stuff. And, you know, it's when you get something to the point where it's loved and accepted, you know, sometimes you must leave it alone for a while.
Yeah, yeah.
And, you know, let everybody enjoy it. Then you can always revisit, you know, like we're going to be doing Elvis on tour. You know, the new box set that's coming out, part of that's in the Baz film, but, you know, 50 years later, you go back. Now, I hope you don't have to wait 50 years. I don't have that much time. But,
I don't have that much cash.
Right.
But it's interesting. Tell me about now. We've had talks before, and I remember one interview we did. I think it was on a cruise ship, that we went down the list of actors who had played Elvis, and you critiqued that actor and how they performed as Elvis. I want to ask you, and I'm blanking, and I didn't make a note of the name of the actor that plays Jerry Schilling, and your reaction to you in the movie.
Yeah, everybody's talking about who's going to get an Oscar. No. His name is Luke Bracey. I have not met him yet, and I'm looking forward to it. I heard him on an interview on the red carpet in London. Somebody asked him what it was like playing me, and he said, "Oh, you know, I sent him a couple of emails. He's really, you know," he said nice things, and I'm still looking. And then I just from Warner Brothers, I got his email, and I've sent him emails, but Baz sent me an email saying, "I think you will like the respectful way Luke is presenting your character in this movie," and I'm very pleased with it. I think he did a nice job.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Everybody on social media shares their opinion, and
that's why I'm not on social media.
Probably a very smart move on your part. That had criticisms of the film, and I always say that Baz balanced something that, on one hand, incredible authenticity in wanting to make sure that so much that the floors of Lansky's were the right color, that he called Hal to ask what color the floors were, and then also decisions made artistically in the film that is dramatic license to move the story along, to maybe condense some things, to switch some timelines around, to make a statement with a song, maybe at a time that the song wasn't written, or at a hotel whose name changed shortly after Elvis opened there, but throughout the movie remains. Those kind of details, almost imperceptibly unimportant to the average viewer who this movie is aimed at, which is the new Elvis fan. I don't think we're going to make or break someone loving Elvis and being pulled into his story by the fact they didn't know that the Hilton was the Hilton and not the International.
Exactly. Yeah.
So there are, but the amount of authenticity that he did bring to the film and wanting to get things right, and into even casting you and the guys and Steve Bender and the look of the clothes and the era and the sets, just absolutely amazing. You've been on film sets, you've worked on films as an actor, you've worked on films as an editor, and and how it comes together sometimes is just it's a lot of talent and a lot of hope and a lot of prayers, because the best movies sometimes are never edited correctly, they're never shot correctly, they're never cast correctly. This one seems to hit. So we're so lucky in that.
I think one of the most difficult things is, and I get asked a lot, is all this true? Did that really happen? And whatever. And when, Tom, you're a film producer, 17 years to Turner Classic Movies. That's where we originally knew each other. That's why he knows how to ask the great film questions, because he is a well-known producer on his own. Yeah, so Tom Brown. I think even more difficult than anything is you must condense. You can't put 23-year career or a 42-year life and cover everything. But I think what's really important, if you have to add something, or if the juxtaposition must change in order to get everything in time-wise, the most important thing is if you add something, like there's some lines in there that didn't happen, if it's in character, that's what's important. And Baz had everything pretty much in character. So that's why I said the film overall is very truthful.
Yeah.
Overall.
And we're talking about Baz, Austin Butler.
Priscilla and I, many years ago, we co-produced the film, a TV series called Elvis. You may remember the young Elvis. And we weren't happy with the guy they had cast as Elvis. And I kept searching and I found this tape of somebody, and we did have casting approval, thank God.
Yeah.
We had editorial approval and everything. And I just said, I want this guy to come back from New York. And then we started shooting here in Memphis on Monday. This was Thursday, I think, before. And, they said, well, this other guy's paid, there's no way. And so we just said, well, we want to see this guy. And if we have to, contractually, we want to see this guy. So they flew him in overnight. I picked him up at the airport. He kind of slept in my car. We did a screen test.
Priscilla Presley.
He said he takes me everywhere where he goes.
Do we have one more mic, maybe, back there? Jonathan, maybe? One more mic? Oh, heck, take mine. I don't care.
Where was it? I'm talking about when we were doing the TV series. They're talking about casting and everything. And he'd asked me about Austin Butler. Before, there's been some really good actors that played Elvis, and there's been some bad ones. But before, there was a guy named Michael St. George that Priscilla and I, we said, unless we get a screen test on him, this is not going to happen. And He was very quiet. He did a great job. I didn't think anybody. We talked that, you know, it was before the jumpsuits and it was early, but boy, Austin Butler, I mean, and he's as cool off camera as he is on camera. He's the real thing.
He really is. He's so humble, so sweet. I mean, you want to mother him. I'm not kidding you. He's just, and he was so nervous about doing this. In fact, it took him a while to really, you know, really contemplate, God, should he do this or should he not do this? He knew, well, I told him he got big shoes to fill. That's really nice for a start, right? But he did his homework, and I knew that. But he, God, he just blew us all away. Blew us all away. We saw it, you probably said already, we saw it together. We didn't talk for about 45 minutes into the show, if not more. No, well, there's a chair between us. Then he moved over. I looked over and I said, wow, it looks like we're going to Cannes. Okay, oh, thank you. You sure? You don't want to come in and talk with us?
Tom's been talking all day. Yeah. Experience.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you.
That's nice.
This last year.
This is the Pat Boone mic. I'll have that cool voice. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, this is the Pat Boone mic. No, this last year, because we talked in January, just, 8 months ago. And I said, so, tell me about the movie. And you're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I didn't know at all. People ask me, did you have anything to do with it? The thing I had to do with it is definitely talk to Baz for about 4 hours. We were together. I had him over for dinner and lunch with Jerry and, of course, his wife, beautiful CM. And we talked for about 4 hours, and mostly about the Colonel, and kind of getting the gist of where he was going with the film. But this is Baz Luhrmann, and Baz, which I've said before, and you've heard me, you never know quite where he's going to go. He's a genius for sure, but this movie, I tell you, it knocked it out. I don't know one other director or producer who could pull that together and do as well as he did.
You got a bling director for the King of Bling. I mean, the style that I knew when I saw the rap songs in Great Gatsby that this was going to be an interesting ride for Baz and Elvis. And it's like these two subjects that are so perfectly matched found each other. His style, but the amount of research, most directors hire a writer, the writer does a little research, they shoot the movie. Basically, Angie said he moved in archives and started going through things.
Yeah.
They came to Tupelo to get the vibe.
And read every book. Read every book that was out there. And that was again, what book?
Yeah.
That's the only thing. It's a couple of them are a little iffy. But no, he you know who I mean. He pulled it through. And I love Baz. He's just so great. I mean, he's definitely. Talk about bling. I mean, he's out there. You see the pearl necklaces? Do you know that all the guys now are wearing pearl necklaces?
I did know that. Yeah.
Yes.
Tom, show me your belt buckle.
Oh, well, thanks for asking.
Just your belt buckle.
Yes, just.
So,
Hey!
okay, sit down, Tom. So with Priscilla and I were at Cannes, and we were doing some pictures with Baz and the cast before going to Cannes. And Baz had this beautiful belt buckle. I said, God, that's cool. Jerry, it cost me $150,000 to have this made.
True story.
True story.
Yeah.
The original one is really all diamonds and rubies and all that.
Talk about bling. I mean, he
got it.
Yeah. But he's as comfortable on camera, and you ever see him on there, he just comes on and talks and has no fears whatsoever, not shy at all.
And did such a great job of like I said, just looking together and all of them working. And Jerry, you bring up an interesting thing. I hadn't thought. The COVID shutdown enabled them to immerse Baz and Austin to immerse even more and have more time to just live with it and to understand Elvis.
Well, you know, I had dinner with Tom Hanks here at the hotel, and he told us about that, and they didn't know if he was going to be able to make it or not, you know, with the COVID going again all the way back. So him and Rita just said it was, you know, that we didn't know if we were going to make it, and neither did Baz. Really, Warner Brothers was really putting the pressure on. So thank goodness, you know, they were able to make it, because I can't see this just going on the shelf, that's for sure.
Yeah. I had a few things here that I said before you might have gotten here about when opening weekend it beat out to The Wire, it beat out Top Gun Maverick. It was tied essentially up until Sunday night, and then two more people, I guess, went to the Elvis movie, and we won. But it's even now the #2 music biopic behind Bohemian Rhapsody, and we're coming after them. We're coming after them. But I just wanted to ask the two of you, what do you do during a 12-minute standing ovation?
I went to the bathroom. I swear to God. I went to the bathroom because, okay, when we left the hotel, I was going to go to the bathroom. They said, no, we got to leave now because we have a motorcade. So, okay. Then when we got to we got to the palace, right? I thought, no, you have to. Remember, they took us right in the red carpet, sit down. And then I sat for 2 hours and 40 minutes for the film. So then everybody, I ran to the bathroom, came back, ran to the bathroom, came back, and it was still applauding.
It was unbelievable. We were all teary-eyed. I mean, literally teary-eyed when we looked up and saw, I mean, at the Met, of all places, to see the standing ovation, everybody. Now, I mean, all of us were teary-eyed, all of us. It was so beautiful. I was having chills now, but I was having chills then as well, to see that audience. And that was a tough audience, too. They've seen many, many films, and that was never been done for that long.
Yeah.
I just did it again.
I can't imagine the nerves of the nervousness of Baz when he knew you and Jerry were watching the film. But then I had to also think about, well, now it's Priscilla and Jerry said they like it, and then there's another person that's pretty close to this story, and that's Lisa.
Yes, and we actually saw the movie before. We were actually the first ones to see the movie that Baz offered, and I hadn't heard anything from Baz at all, other than I told Baz I can't go to Cannes, I can't go to New York, I haven't seen the film. You may have said this, and I can't go because I mean people are going to look at this as a statement that, you know, we love it. So Baz arranged the theater for us. We sat next to each other. Well, there was a seat before us until he whispered. But anyway, we were speechless, literally, and both of us said, wow, this is about 3/4. And it was so touching. Both of us were so touched by it. It was definitely difficult to let the tears go, and you know, the moment, of course, go too, because it was just unbelievable. So Lisa calls me about 2 days later, and she goes, Mom, what about this film? Now, I can't...
It sounds just like her.
So, both of us know, you know, you have to be careful with Lisa, because if you say something's really, really good, then I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. Why did you like it? So I just said, you know, it's good. I didn't overdo it, did nothing, right? So she went to see it, right? And then she goes, not so good. So that was a real validation to all of us, the fact that, but I knew she would. I knew she would.
Now, Tom, we were so moved. We were a little speechless at the end of it, and Gail Berman was outside, one of the producers, who was 11 years ago, this idea. Baz, 11 years ago, told Gail Berman, who was the head of a major studio at the time, that he was thinking about this. She never let it go. So she was waiting outside to see what our reaction was, because Baz was getting on a plane in Australia. and there was one security person, and the security person was crying, was standing in the back. And so anyway, Gail called Baz and told him the reaction, and if I remember correctly, he said he cried. Priscilla and I were still so in shock, I would say. We went across the street and had a 4-hour dinner, just talking about this film, you know.
No, it was very emotional. It was emotional for Jerry. It was also emotional for me. And yes, I did get teary-eyed, but I just didn't want to be embarrassed when I walked out because all my makeup would have smeared off. So I don't have that much, but anyway, didn't want to all black down here.
Yeah.
But no, it was emotional for us. We just sat there and went, oh my gosh.
And I love traveling with her because she has a great makeup person. I get to have makeup when I travel with this
I don't know if you heard, I was telling the story where on the red carpet, I think it was at the Met Gala, everybody's very, model, supermodel, kind of that Prada kind of thing, and you're there and you know how to do all that.
I had Prada on too.
Yes, I know you all had Prada on, but you all have that Prada supermodel look. Jerry's back there. Somebody didn't tell Jerry. He was... And I told you I saw that. I sent that picture to you. You were still in Canada. And I go, look, these photos have already hit. And I sent it to him, and he says, my North Memphis is showing.
That's true. I was the happiest guy on the red carpet. I wasn't cool, but I was happy.
That's all it says. We've heard from people who have taken family members that, perhaps were not Elvis fans, who, for one reason or another, in some ways, when you said that about Lisa, we grow up and we have kids and grandkids and we have Elvis rooms and we're playing Elvis music, and they automatically just don't want to even be a part of that because that's our thing. So they go over here with their music, and that's fine. That's the way it's always been. But when you can take a young person to this movie, as these people have done, taking family members and other people that said they don't like, and they come out, and on the way home, they click over on Elvis radio, and they're listening to... There's a reason that these songs have been downloaded so much, and there's a reason that over 50% of the people streaming Elvis now are under the age of 35.
Yeah, it's unreal. After I saw the film, I called Jack Soden. And I said, Jack, oh my God, have you seen this movie? He hadn't. And I said, we're going to have a whole new generation of Elvis lovers with this generation. We're going to have it. We're going to get it back. And Elvis is going to be on top again. And that's exactly what has happened. Exactly what's
happened. And the soundtrack album, you listen to it in the movie, and then there's the end credits and whatever, but there's so much going on. And then one day, I downloaded the soundtrack album. It's amazing. You got Stevie Nicks and Chris Isaac doing Crawfish and Fever together. You got Eminem and CeeLo doing The King and I.
How did Baz do that? Get all these people together.
He's the genius.
Oh my gosh! Those are.
When I want to get in a good mood, just to start the day, I put that soundtrack album on. It's amazing.
And somebody like Jack White, who calls Baz and goes, I'm going to be a part of this.
Yeah.
I want to be, because he's an Elvis guy. He wants to be a part of that. So we talked about the people that were being exposed to Elvis, and they're all of a sudden loving it. What has this movie done? Lisa was part of that story, but Riley and the twins.
They love it. They love it. The girls loved it. Riley loved it. Again, it's like looking at, that's my grandfather, know, and they got to see him for the first time. Really, I have to say, Harper has a crush. She wanted to know, she's 13, she'll be 14 in October. She wanted to know how old I was when I met Elvis. She looked over at Austin, and she's like, I know what she's thinking. She's going to wait till she's 14.
That's kind of weird in a lot of ways.
Austin's a bit older.
Yeah, okay, good. What is your review of Olivia, who played Priscilla Presley in the film?
You know what? I like Olivia. She's so sweet and she's so nice. And I can only imagine the shoes that she feels she has to fit in.
Yeah.
And I put myself in her place and I'm going, oh my gosh, this poor girl, you know, I mean, again, you know, to play me and not really know me because I never really met her. But I got to know her and I saw the film and I love that she had that sensitivity, that she was able to have compassion and you know, it really, this is really how I was, you know, in trying to help. So I thought she did a really nice job. She really did. She wasn't trying to top off anyone.
And there was some dialogue between the Priscilla and Elvis characters that I went through your book and I found some of those sentences that were said in the movie in your book. So Baz was poring over information from all of you, and it was so, he wanted it to say something, and I think people are viewing you and your relationship with Elvis in an entirely different light that they might not have understood before they saw it.
No,
like this.
I know. I mean,
Good point, Tom.
Yeah, it is a good point. Yeah, I know. I've had a lot of questions about, you know, we're divorced and you know, why I still carry on the image and, of course, the legacy and the love, because I was absolutely, and you know the story, in love with him and still am to this day. It's just that.
I witnessed the love after. We all know the love during and pre, and you know, Priscilla and Elvis got married about the same time me and Sandy got married, and kind of honeymooned together. But the relationship, and this film depicted it, but the relationship was still so close. The love was still there. The divorce was, you know, you had to fly, but it didn't change the love. And I can remember driving to your home, sometimes sitting in the car, Elvis, and would leave the house in his pajama in a robe and go and talk to Priscilla at her house. I mean, this is way after the divorce.
This is so cute. He would drop by unannounced sometimes. And sometimes it wasn't a very good time to drop by, but he still came by, of course. So, and this one time he came walking over to me. He wanted to show me his new car, which is this stuff, remember?
Yep.
So, but his pajamas were coming out of his pants quite as much. So, of course, you know, I started laughing. I go, oh my gosh. He goes, what is it? And I go, well, do you still have your pajama bottoms on? He goes, I'm not here to show you my pajama bottoms. Oh, you didn't see my car. But he would come at 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. My sister would come down and say hi, my mom. And Lisa, of course, when she was about 4 or 5. Well, actually, she was different ages. But yeah, he would just pop up, show up, and just want to talk. And we'd talk for 2 or 3, 4 hours. Yeah. This is in the morning now. So didn't matter. He was so unpredictable. So you never knew when he was going to show up or what he was going to do, or call. Yeah. Calls all the time in the morning, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock.
That clock was kind of opposite for him. We always talk about that.
That's right.
And the tours that we've done and we're going to do over the next couple of nights, to be in the mansion at night is a very special thing. To feel like that's when that house starts to wake up about 9, 10 p.m.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right. And then that's when everything happened. I mean, Elvis was definitely a night owl, not good in the afternoons or daytime. He was wake up about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, sometimes 5, ask for breakfast. No one could understand why he was having breakfast at 4 or 5 in the morning, in the afternoon, but that was his lifestyle.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. And Memphis was his playground. And the story that the movie tells, and that this legacy of Graceland and these museums and everything, his music, his movies, and this movie will just continue on. And that tradition continues tonight at the candlelight, something that was started by the fans.
Yes.
This being the 45th anniversary, and we're all here, but also recently the 40th anniversary of opening Graceland, and this lady made the hard decision and brought the irreplaceable Jack Soden in. I want to hear, Priscilla and Jack Soden. We have there's a guest house and everything, so the combination of everything, but the essence and the hard decisions and the heart and soul was Priscilla, and Jack took that, and all the people on the staff and stuff that work at Graceland, they have that love and that care, and it's on for 40 years now. It's amazing.
Yeah. It's been quite a ride. Really quite a ride. And thank you to all of you who come visiting every year, no matter what time, whether it's his birthday, whether it's Christmas, whether it's Elvis week. You're here, and that makes so much. It keeps it alive. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
And I only have one suggestion that you can improve here. You need to build a bigger parking lot because there's a lot more people coming to Graceland. Priscilla Presley and Jerry Schilling.
Thank you, John.
Wow. I had a pretty good seat for that. All right, we're getting out of here a few minutes late. Everybody okay with that? Yeah! Okay, I thought so. So I'm sitting there and Jerry's talking and I see Priscilla walking up. And when Priscilla Presley says, shh, you shh. I didn't say a word. Later, Jerry's going to go, why didn't you tell me she was coming up on me? We've got some autographs right now happening at the Lightning Lounge. Jerry Sheff, Pat Boone, and Marlon Mason will be over there signing some autographs, and we will see you tonight at Candlelight. It is a very special time started by you, the fans, and we'll see you across the street tonight.